Crash on the dead planet. Smoke filled the air. The sky above was red and broken. Something had fallen. Hard. Elira opened her eyes, coughing. Her head hurt. She was lying in sand, half buried near the wreckage of her escape pod. The crash had knocked her out. Her suit was torn at the elbow and blood ran down her arm, but she was alive. Ship gone, she whispered, looking around. The freighter she was on had been attacked by pirates in deep space. Everything happened so fast. Explosions, screaming, alarms. She barely reached the escape pod in time. And now, she was here. The planet looked dead. A dry desert spread in all directions. No trees, no water, no sounds, just wind and burning sun. Elira stood slowly, trying to understand her surroundings. The pod had broken in two. Supplies were scattered in the sand, food packs, water canisters, a medical kit, and a broken comm device. She grabbed what she could and put it into her pack. Survival came first. As she walked around the wreck, she froze. A body was lying in the shadow of the pod. It was large, not human. The creature was tall, scaly, with deep blue skin and clawed hands. Its breathing was slow, but it was still alive. Elira stepped back in fear. What the hell? It was an alien, and not a peaceful-looking one. She remembered seeing this species before, at least in files. Rakaran, a warrior race, fierce in battle, not friends of humans. The aliens had been fighting for territory for years. What are you doing here? She whispered, watching the alien's chest rise and fall. Maybe he was another survivor. Maybe his ship had crashed too. Elira looked at the horizon. There was nothing. No shelter. No sign of help. Only this alien and her. Suddenly, the alien's eyes opened. Bright yellow eyes stared at her. He growled, trying to lift himself up. But he fell again, clutching his side. He was wounded badly. His ribs looked crushed, and blood ran from a deep cut across his chest. Elira felt fear rise in her throat. Should she help him? Or leave him? She looked at the broken comm device. It was useless. No signal. No connection. She was alone here. And so was he. Elira pulled the medical kit from her bag. She walked slowly toward him, hands raised to show she meant no harm. I won't hurt you, she said softly, though she knew he wouldn't understand her words. The alien growled again but didn't move. His breathing was shallow. He needed help, or he would die. Elira knelt beside him and opened the kit. She cleaned the wound with shaking hands and wrapped it in bandages. The alien flinched but didn't strike her. That gave her some hope. Hours passed. The sun dropped low and cold winds began to blow. Elira built a small fire from broken parts of the escape pod. She sat beside it watching the alien sleep. His breathing was steady now, though weak. I guess we're stuck together, she said to herself. That night, the wind howled across the sand. The fire cracked and hissed. Elira curled up near the warmth, shivering. Suddenly, a strange sound came from the darkness. Low, animal-like. Something was moving out there. She grabbed a sharp metal rod from the wreckage and stood up, heart pounding. Two glowing eyes appeared in the dark. A desert beast, something like a giant lizard with long teeth, crept toward her, sniffing the air. Elira backed up. The beast hissed and rushed at her. Before she could scream, the alien woke with a roar. With surprising strength, he stood and slammed his claws into the beast's side. They fought fiercely. Elira watched in shock as the alien used his claws and teeth like weapons, tearing into the monster. The beast fell. Dead. The alien dropped to one knee, panting. Blood dripped from his arm, but he had saved her. Elira looked at him, heart still, racing. Thank you, she said quietly. The alien didn't respond, but he didn't attack her either. He sat by the fire, groaning in pain. Elira gave him water and checked his wounds again. This time, he didn't growl. In the firelight, they looked at each other. No words, just silence. But something had changed. They were strangers. Enemies, maybe. But they were alone now, on a dead planet. No one else was coming. And if they wanted to survive, they had to do it together. The fire had burned low. Cold air filled the desert night. Elira didn't sleep much. She kept one eye open, watching the alien. He hadn't moved. His eyes were closed, his chest rising slowly. The fight last night had drained him, but he saved her. That meant something. At sunrise, Elira stepped away from camp to look for more supplies. She climbed a sand dune to get a better view. All around, nothing. Just more rocks, dust, and strange jagged cliffs in the distance. Suddenly, she saw something shiny in the sand. A small piece of wreckage. Maybe from his ship? She dug around it and uncovered a small case. Inside there were tools, not human ones. Alien gear. Sharp, glowing items she didn't understand. She returned to the camp and found the alien sitting up, holding his side. He looked at her with tired, alert eyes. Still silent. Still dangerous. Elira slowly placed the tool case near him and pointed. Yours? The alien looked at the items, then at her. He blinked, confused. Then gave a short nod. It was the first sign of communication between them. Later that day, Elira tried something bold. She picked up a stick and started drawing in the sand. A stick figure for her, then a scaly figure for him. She pointed to herself. Elira, then pointed at the stick figure. The alien stared. After a moment, he touched the figure with claws and grunted softly, Rakkar. Elira smiled a little. His name was Rakkar. They weren't just strangers anymore. But the peace didn't last. That afternoon, a massive shadow passed over them. A flying beast, a winged predator, circled above. Its screech made the ground tremble. Rakkar stood instantly and pulled a sharp blade from his belt. He roared up at the sky. Elira grabbed a metal rod and backed toward the pod. The beast swooped down fast. Rakkar lunged and slashed at its wing, causing it to crash into the sand. The alien leaped on top and drove his blade deep into its skull. The battle was brutal, quick, bloody. Elira watched in shock. Rakkar was a warrior, a real one. When it was over, Rakkar dragged the dead beast to the fire. He made a motion, cutting it open. Then he pointed to Elira's stomach. Food. You want to eat that thing? She asked, disgusted. He growled again, picked up a knife and started cutting. The meat sizzled on metal pieces placed over the fire. Elira was starving. Against her better judgment, she took a small bite. It tasted like spicy chicken. She laughed. Rakkar tilted his head, confused by the sound. Elira held her belly, still laughing. Guess we both like roast monster, she said. They sat together, eating the strange meat under a quiet sky. They didn't speak the same language, but they didn't have to. That night, Elira sat beside him and drew more pictures in the sand. She showed a crashed ship, 2 small figures, a big sun, then drew stars and a spaceship. She pointed to the stars. Hope. Rakkar looked at her drawing, then added to it. He drew a monster, then a fire. Then 2 figures sitting together side by side. Elira looked at him. Her chest felt heavy. He was saying what she already knew. They were no longer enemies. They were survivors. Suddenly, Rakkar reached into his gear and pulled out a small stone, glowing faint blue. He placed it gently in her hand. It pulsed with light, warm to touch. What's this? She whispered. Rakkar pointed at her heart, then his, a sign of trust. That night, she slept beside him for the first time, no longer afraid. The desert might kill them, or maybe they'd survive. But now, they weren't alone. They had each other. The wind changed. Elira stood on the cliff edge, her hair whipping around her face. Below, the sky had turned greenish, Strange clouds swirled across the horizon like angry ghosts. A thick mist rolled over the sand, and the air began to smell wrong. She rushed back to the camp. "Rakar!" she called out. The alien was sharpening a bone knife when he looked up sharply. He sniffed the air, then his eyes widened. He growled something low and urgent, motioning wildly toward the cave they had passed yesterday. Elira didn't argue. Whatever was coming, it wasn't just a normal storm. They packed quickly. Rakar scooped up the fire, stone, tools, and meat. Elira grabbed water, her small scanner, and the blue glowing rock Rakar gave her. The mist chased them like a monster. Trees, if they were trees, started to wilt and curl. The sand hissed, burning like acid. They reached the cave just as the first wave hit. Elira stumbled in, coughing hard. Her eyes burned. Rakar slammed a large stone across the entrance, sealing them inside. Darkness. Only the faint glow from Rakar's crystal lit the space. She fell to the floor, breathing fast. Her heart pounded. What was that? Rakar didn't answer, but he opened his pack, pulled out a cloth soaked in strange green liquid and held it out. She hesitated, then pressed it to her face. The pain in her lungs eased. He was saving her again. Hours passed. The poison wind howled outside, making the cave walls tremble. The air inside was thick, dry, and heavy. Elira sat with her knees pulled to her chest. She shivered. She looked at Rakar. He sat silently, legs crossed, eyes closed like he was meditating. He looked calm, like he had done this before. Elira broke the silence. Are we going to die here? Rakar opened his eyes. He didn't understand her words, but maybe he understood her tone. He looked at her for a long moment, then reached over and placed the glowing stone between them. The light grew warmer, softer. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Elira stared at the light, her breathing slowing. She leaned back against the cave wall. I used to live in a big city. Bright lights, loud music, real food. She gave a bitter laugh. I hated being alone. Now I'm on a dead planet with a guy who barely speaks. Rakar tilted his head. She smiled. You're not bad company. She reached over and lightly tapped his arm. He looked at the spot, confused. Then he tapped her arm back, much more gently than she expected. A strange peace settled between them. The storm outside kept screaming. But inside, something was changing. Later, Elira lay down near the wall and closed her eyes. Sleep wouldn't come. Her body ached. Her mind raced. She turned and saw Rakar sitting closer now. He had covered her legs with a piece of cloth from his gear. She stared at him in the dim light. The sharp edges of his face, the strange ridges across his arms, the faint glow of his skin under the crystal's light. He looked like a monster. But he had never harmed her. He had protected her, fed her, watched over her. In this lonely world, he was the only thing keeping her sane. She whispered, I don't know if I'll make it off this planet. Rakar leaned back, resting his head against the wall. He made a soft sound. Not a growl. Not a warning. Something like a lullaby. Elira closed her eyes, listening. When she opened them again, she realized he had moved closer in the night. His arm was touching hers. Not on purpose, just near. And strangely, she didn't mind. Outside, the storm roared like a wild beast, but inside that dark, poisoned cave, a strange warmth grew between two lost souls. The poison storm lasted for 2 full nights. By the third, the wind had stopped screaming, but the world outside was no better. The sky looked sick. The sand had turned darker, sharper. Nothing moved. Inside the cave, time felt slow, heavy. Elira sat near the firestone, warming her fingers. Her eyes watched the flame, but her thoughts were far away. She hadn't seen another human in weeks, hadn't heard a human voice, just wind, beasts, and Rakar. Rakar was quiet today. He was cleaning one of the beast bones they used to cook meat. His claws worked carefully, almost like carving. Elira stared at him. His body was strange, strong, covered in small scales like armor, but there was something graceful in how he moved. Controlled, calm. She spoke, though she knew he wouldn't. Understand? I wonder what your world looks like. Do you have cities, families, someone waiting for you? Ricard paused and looked at her. He said something in his own language. Soft, low. His voice wasn't harsh like before. It was calm, curious, like he was asking something. Elira shook her head. I wish I knew what you were saying. Ricard stood and walked to the wall of the cave. He began to draw in the dust with a sharp rock. Circles, lines, a big star, then smaller stars around it. He pointed at the big one, his home. Elira's eyes widened. She moved beside him and drew Earth, a blue and green ball with a moon. Then she drew two figures again, one human, one alien, together. They both stared at the drawing. Then Elira did something strange. She reached out and touched his hand. He didn't pull away. Instead, he looked at her fingers. So soft, so different from his rough claws. Slowly, gently, he placed his hand over hers. Neither spoke. The cave felt warmer suddenly, closer. Elira looked into his eyes, those glowing yellow eyes that once scared her. Now, they held no fear, only quiet, understanding. Her heart beat faster. She whispered, "This shouldn't be happening." But she didn't move. Ricard leaned forward slightly, tilting his head. Elira touched his face, brushing one of the small ridges on his cheek. He closed his eyes. She felt something stir in her chest. Loneliness, hope, maybe something more. Elira leaned her forehead against his. Their skin felt different, but their pain was the same. Two lost beings, clinging to each other in a dying world. That night, they lay together on a bed made of rags and fur. It wasn't fast. It wasn't wild. It was quiet, careful. Two souls learning each other's shape. Ricard was gentle, watching her closely, making sure she was okay. Elira's hands trembled, but she didn't stop. She didn't feel scared. She felt seen. Their bodies were different, but somehow they fit. The warmth they shared filled the cold space between them. There were no words, just breath, touch, heartbeats. After, they lay in silence, their bodies close. Ricard held her like she was fragile, like she mattered. Elira stared up at the cave ceiling, blinking away a tear. She had come here alone, crashed, broken. But tonight, for the first time, she didn't feel empty. She whispered, I don't know what this means, but I'm glad you're here. Ricard didn't understand the words, but he pulled her closer, and in that silence, she believed he understood her heart. The days after the storm were strangely calm. The sky turned pale again and the wind stopped screaming. But something else began to stir, inside Elira. She had grown used to the hunger, the thirst, the cold nights beside Ricard's warm body. She even got used to hearing his low voice as he tried to teach her alien words. They were building something together, survival, maybe something more. But then, she started waking up sick. At first, she blamed the food. Her stomach turned every morning. The meat tasted strange. The water was stale. But when she stopped eating, completely, and the sickness stayed, fear began to grow inside her. She sat alone one morning while Ricard hunted, her hands resting on her belly. Something wasn't right. Her body felt heavy. Her heart beat too fast. I felt this before, she whispered, staring at the rocks. Back home years ago, she had been through this. Once. A short, sad moment in her life. She grabbed the scanner from her pack, the small handheld device she had saved from the wreckage. It barely worked, its screen cracked, the battery low. But it could still do one thing. Scan for life signs. She held it to her abdomen. A soft beep. Then the screen. Glowed blue, 2 heartbeats, one was hers, the other wasn't. She stared in shock. No. 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 Her mind couldn't understand. Her hands shook. The memory of that night in the cave, Rakar's arms, his warmth, his body against hers, flashed in her mind. This isn't possible, she said, aloud. But the scanner didn't lie. She was pregnant, with an alien child. Elira stood up quickly and stumbled outside the cave. The sun burned her skin, but she didn't care. She needed air, she needed to breathe. Her knees gave out and she fell into the sand. Tears came fast. Confused, scared, angry. What did I do? She cried into the wind. What did we do? Footsteps. Behind her she turned. Rakar stood there holding a large animal over his shoulder. He dropped it when he saw her face. Elira. He said her name softly, the way he always did now. She looked at him with wide eyes, clutching her belly. He came closer, but she backed away. No, just stay. Rakar paused. He didn't move, but his eyes searched her face. Elira didn't know what to say. She didn't know if she should be mad or scared or grateful. This isn't a normal child, she said, her voice breaking. This is something new, something no one will accept. She sank to her knees again. Rakar walked forward, slowly this time, and knelt beside her. She held the scanner out, showed him the screen. He looked at it, then at her belly. Understanding lit his eyes. He reached out, not to touch her, but to draw in the sand. He drew a small figure, a round one. Inside, another larger one. Then a third figure himself, standing beside it. Elira stared at the drawing. Her tears fell again, not from fear this time, but from shock, and something like hope. You're not scared? She asked. Rakar didn't answer with words. Instead, he picked up a small stone and carved something beside the drawing, a heart. An alien symbol, maybe. But it looked like love. He touched her hand, gently. Then he reached behind his neck and removed a strange metal band he always wore. It was a piece of his armor. Something sacred. He placed it on the ground in front of her, an offering, a sign of protection, a sign of family. Elira wiped her eyes. You really want this child, don't you? Rakar nodded once. She looked at the scanner again. 2 heartbeats. 1 human, 1 unknown, but both hers now. She placed her hand in Rakar's, and for the first time since the crash, she didn't feel alone anymore. Elira sat near the cave's opening, her hand resting gently on her belly. It had been weeks since she first saw the second heartbeat on the scanner. Since then, everything had changed. Her body felt heavier. Her cravings were strange. She cried more, laughed less. And through it all, Rakar never left her side. Outside, the skies were dark again. A red dust filled the air. The planet's weather kept shifting, hot one day, freezing the next. It was a place not meant for life, but life was growing inside her. Not just any life. A child that was half her and half him. Some days she feared it, the unknown. Would the baby survive? Would it even look human? What if it couldn't breathe this planet's air? What if it harmed her from the inside? Other days she felt something different. Wonder. A quiet miracle on a forgotten world. She placed Rakar's glowing stone on her stomach. It pulsed softly as if responding. The warmth of the stone comforted her. So did his presence. Rakar had changed too. He built a better shelter inside the cave. He gathered soft furs from the beasts he hunted. He even crafted a cradle from smooth rocks and bones, small but strong. He placed it near their fire, decorating it with bits of crystal and feather. He didn't speak her language, but every action whispered the same word: family. One night as she tried to sleep, she felt it. A kick. Her eyes shot open. She gasped. Rakar turned quickly, alert. She took his hand and pressed it to her stomach. Another kick. His eyes widened in shock, then softened in awe. They sat in silence, both watching her belly, both stunned by the life they created together. But peace didn't last. The next morning, smoke rose in the sky. Far away, but real. A signal? A ship? Or something worse? Elira grabbed the scanner. It picked up faint power readings. Someone, or something, was out there. She looked at Rakar. "We need to find out what that is." He didn't hesitate. He packed quickly and handed her his curved dagger. A protective gift. They left at sunrise, moving through sharp rocks and deep valleys. Elira's steps were slow, her back aching. Rakar often stopped and held her hand. He knew she was struggling. He never pushed. After hours of walking, they reached it, an old alien structure, part of a satellite station, half buried in sand. The tech inside was dead, but one console blinked faintly. Elira wiped the dust off and saw it, an emergency beacon, a chance. She looked at Rakar. "If we activate this, someone may come." He nodded slowly. "But not just humans," she said. "Others too. Pirates, slavers, hunters." Rakar stepped forward and placed his hand on the console. Then he looked at her belly. A message. He wanted the child to live, even if it meant risking everything. Elira took a deep breath and turned on the beacon. A soft hum filled the air. A blue light shot upward into the clouds. Signal sent. As they walked back to the cave, fear gripped her. What if humans come? What will they think when they see you? When they see the baby? She didn't say the words out loud, but Rakar saw her face. He stopped, then took her hand, pressing it against his heart. Thump, thump, thump. He was alive. He had protected her, cared for her, loved her. Did it matter what species he was? They returned to the cave before sunset. Elira collapsed onto the furs, exhausted. Her breath came fast. Her belly hurt. Rakar rushed to her side. She wasn't ready yet, but the pain had begun. Not labor. Not yet. Just a warning. The time was coming. Soon. She held his hand tightly. Outside, the stars blinked. Somewhere, ships were moving. Maybe help. Maybe danger. But inside the cave, a mother and a father waited for a child born of two worlds. The air was quiet. Too quiet. Elira lay on the furs inside the cave, her hands gripping her swollen belly. Sweat dripped from her forehead. Her lips were dry. Her body trembled. She was in labor. Far above, the emergency beacon still blinked weakly. It had been 4 days since they activated it. 4 long, silent days. No ship, no sound, no rescue. But now, the baby wasn't waiting. Rakar paced the cave, his heavy footsteps echoing against the walls. He had seen battle. He had faced beasts, but now, he looked afraid. Elira screamed as pain ripped through her again. Rakar rushed to her side, kneeling. He held her hand with care. His claws were sharp, but his touch was gentle. "It's okay," she whispered through gritted teeth. "We're okay." She didn't believe her own words. Each contraction was stronger, faster. The baby was coming, and there was no one else here to help, just her and him. She cried out again, louder this time. Outside, the wind began to blow, far off in the sky. Something blinked, a shadow, then a sound. Engines, a ship. But Elira didn't hear it. She was too far gone. 6 hours earlier. The stars above the desert shimmered as something pierced the atmosphere. Fast and silent. A Terran search vessel. White and silver, marked with the symbol of the outer human colonies. Inside, a crew of 5 scanned the surface. Beacon confirmed. Coordinates match. Crashed human pod. And maybe more, the captain said. They lowered through the clouds, cutting through red sand and toxic mist. "Weapons ready," said the soldier at the back. "No idea what's down there." "Hold fire," the captain ordered. "If there's a survivor, we don't want to scare them." They landed near the rocky cliffs and stepped out in full suits. Footprints, 2 different sizes, one human, one alien. The crew followed them, guns raised, breath held. "Now!" Elira screamed again, louder than before. The baby was coming fast. Rakar knelt in front of her, not understanding the process, but knowing she was in pain. He wiped her forehead with a damp cloth. He growled low, a sound of comfort, the same sound he used when calming injured animals. Elira grabbed his arm. I can't do this." Rakar made a sound deep in his chest. He touched her belly gently and spoke a word she didn't know, but somehow it made her feel safe. The pain came again. She pushed. Outside the cave, the rescue team paused. They heard it, a scream, then a roar. They raised their weapons, rushing toward the sound. The cave entrance came into view. The soldier aimed his blaster. Then he stopped. Frozen. Inside, under the flickering glow of a fire crystal, a human woman lay on a bed of furs, screaming in pain. Beside her, a massive alien knelt, holding her hand. He wasn't hurting her, he was helping her. The team lowered their weapons slowly. "What the hell?" one of them whispered. Back inside, Elira let out one final cry. The child slipped into the world. Tiny, silent. She panicked. "No. No cry?" she gasped. Rakar held the baby gently, cradling it in both hands. He wiped its face, then touched its chest and let out a soft purring sound. The baby coughed, then cried. Elira wept. She reached for her child, her arms weak but shaking with emotion. Rakar placed the baby in her arms. A girl. She had soft pink skin, but along her arms were faint silver scales, like her father. Her eyes opened, not blue, not brown, golden, like Rakar's. Elira kissed the tiny forehead. "You're beautiful. You're real." Rakar sat beside them, watching silently. Then slowly he leaned in and rested his forehead against Elira's. Their daughter lay between them, warm, alive, safe. Then a voice called from outside. "Human, survivor, we're here to help." Elira looked up, startled. "Over here," she cried, her voice hoarse. 3 people in suits stepped into the cave. One of them, an older man, rushed to her side. My God, you're alive. And you've..." His eyes fell on the baby, then on Rakar. Everyone froze. The soldier behind raised his gun. "She's being held, that thing..." "No," Elira shouted. "Don't you touch him." The soldier blinked. "What?" "He saved me. He protected me. That's his child. Our child." There was silence. Rakar stood slowly, placing himself between the humans and Elira. The medic stepped forward, scanning the baby. "Vital strong, hybrid DNA, human and unknown species. This is unbelievable." The captain stepped closer. "We have orders to retrieve all survivors, but this complicates things." Elira held the baby tighter. "I won't go without him. He's not human. He's my family," she said. The soldier looked uneasy. "The council will never allow this. Mixed species? It's a threat, a violation." "She is not a threat," Elira shouted. "She's proof that 2 enemies can love, that something new can exist." Rakar didn't understand the words, but he knew the tone. He placed a hand on Elira's shoulder. Calm, steady. The captain took a deep breath. "Protocol says we report it, but I've seen a lot of things in my time, and this child, is a miracle." He turned to the soldier. "Stand down." The man lowered his gun. Elira smiled weakly. Her body trembled. She looked at Rakar. "We're going home," she whispered. Together. A week later, the medical ship flew through space. Elira sat on a bed in the medbay, the baby sleeping in her arms. A soft glow came from the crib, a small crystal Rakar placed there, humming with gentle light. Rakar sat nearby, his body wrapped in bandages. He had refused medical treatment until Elira and the baby were safe. The captain walked in, holding a datapad. "The council wants to speak to you when we arrive," he said. "They'll have questions." Elira nodded. "I'll answer them. And if they ask to separate you from him?" She didn't hesitate. "They'll have to go through me first." The captain smiled. "I believe you." He looked down at the child. "What's her name?" Elira glanced at Rakar. We made one up together." She touched the baby's hand. "Her name is Lyra Khan. From both of us." The captain nodded. "Fitting." He turned and left the room. Elira looked at Rakar. "We're not alone anymore." He reached out and gently touched the baby's tiny fingers. Golden, eyes blinked up at them. And in that moment, a new future was born.